All right. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us, Dean. Appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
taking the time out of your busy day. I know
Work
somebody's got to get something done around there, so got Fernando in the back working away, I'm sure.
on a Jeep. It's a Jeep, of
So,
course.
of course. So yeah. So just kind of talking shop with Dean today. Chris, just FYI, Facebook's down as far as the Creator Studio Live right now, so we'll just post this to Facebook later, since the Creator Studio is not up and running at the moment on Facebook's end. I just fought that for the last half hour or so. So anyhow, just thought I'd let you know. And then, yeah, anyhow, so for those of you that maybe aren't as familiar with Dean, I'm sure most of you probably are, but on your screen right now is some examples of what Chris was talking about when Chris says, wire management and tidy install, that sort of thing. There's some pretty clean examples right there for you of exactly what we're talking about. So there's a lot of guys out there that would love to get to 1/4 of the cleanliness of wiring that you're seeing on your screen right now. So we can talk about anything you want today, Dean, but I did want to say happy birthday real quick, since I have been told it's your birthday today. So
Thank you.
happy birthday to Dean. That's awesome. And just to kind of kick things off, we'll talk a little bit about you. How long have you been in the industry, Dean?
Be 30 years July.
30 years. That's a long time. You're dating yourself then. If today is your birthday, you've been in the industry for 30 years. Let's see here.
48. I'll just jump you to the thing.
Oh, you'll just go ahead and let everybody know. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. It's easier. Less painful than going, he's 50. No, I'm not.
There
Not
you
yet.
go.
Fighting the battle.
Here, let's go ahead and stop that, and then we'll
It was convenient how you found all the audio control pictures on that one. Good job.
I don't know how that happened. They just happened to pop up. It's really weird. Not sure why or how, but just the way it worked. So yeah. So you've been at 5 Star for how long now?
So I was at my previous employer for 21 years, and then that fell apart. So then, about 9 years we've been here doing this. And then about 6 years ago is when we started the social media side of it. At my previous employer, I ran the website, designed all that. And at the time, Facebook and MySpace were just starting to be a thing.
Right.
So, it was like, and in there again, I was never the one to be like cutting edge. I need to get on this social network thing and just be like, all the other guys. I never even had a MySpace page. All my installers had them, and I was like, what do you do with it? And I'm like, we find music. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah. You make your cursor have little tails that drag along, and make the page take forever to load with all the videos that pop up and all that junk. That's what I remember from MySpace anyway.
Yeah,
a lot of junk.
The only thing I liked about MySpace was that it gave you the ability to have like a more creative background.
Right.
So it wasn't the sterile Facebook style background, but so when we transitioned over to Facebook, it was like, this is boring. I mean, there's nothing to see.
Right. It's just kind of plain white and all that stuff. But it does load a lot faster.
It loads a lot faster.
Yeah. MySpace could really bog down a computer if it was, if it was one of those typical teenage girl pages or something like that, where there's little, things everywhere that are loading and pulling up.
Why would you know about teenage girl pages there, Matthew?
Because I was in high school when MySpace
I know, right? You were supposed to, because I was young back then. Yeah, okay.
Because I was still in high school at the time. That's why.
Yeah.
But so what did you do before car audio, Dean?
So naturally, like everyone else, got out of high school. Actually, when I got out of high school, I had several. I worked for Procter and Gamble, doing a planogramming for them. But the nice thing about that was only a 3-day-a-week job.
Nice.
So then I was also going to college. I was doing night school because I didn't want to be a car stereo guy at the time. I thought being an architect would be way funner.
Sure.
And who knows, it might have been.
Yeah.
And then, so because my mom was like, hey, working 3 days a week, no. So I had to find another job to fill in the rest of the time. So
Gotcha.
a friend of mine, a guy by the name of Nathan Winsek, who works over at AMP Global now. He works head of like one of the departments of PAC.
Gotcha.
he started working at this company called AVE, and he's like, "Hey, man," which is the store we'd always buy stuff from. He's like, "Hey, I just got a job here. We need somebody. You want to come over and help?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah."
Sure,
So
why not? That sounds like fun.
yeah, hung out there for a couple weeks, got to know the owner and everything. And he's like, "So, okay, you want a job?" And I was like, "Yes."
Yes.
And so, just like everyone else, started
Yeah.
cleaning the bathrooms,
Right.
helping wherever I could help, selling, stocking,
Yeah.
started doing RAs because back then we had to ship everything back and subwoofers being blown, it's
Right.
like every week you got to send back 50 subwoofers and, whatever they needed done. And
Sure.
I could come and go whenever I wanted, but I had to work Friday and Saturday.
Gotcha.
So it was like, those were my days, but I could come in anytime. So
That's
eventually that
cool.
just turned into a full-time job.
Yeah, because like a lot of other people, myself included, you kind of start out as the shop B,
Yeah.
and work your way up from there, right? Eventually they get in a jam and they go, here, put this deck in this car, and next thing you know, you're an installer.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
pretty
I mean,
much,
kind of, sort of, anyway. That's
you
that's
know,
usually how the story goes.
yeah. And then, obviously being there for 21 years, it was just a matter of you worked your way through everything. So you're at the point where it's like, you're running the place
Right.
and at some point you have that disagreement between the owner and your relevance. And it was right at
Sure.
the time back in 2006, 2007, when we had that big crash in the economy.
Hmm.
And, if anyone was around doing business back then, they remember it was tough. We went from having, 5 guys to me and the boss.
Oh,
And
wow.
he just wasn't like, he didn't want to work Saturdays, and I was like, it's your store, you don't even want to work
Right.
Saturdays.
Yeah.
And so, there was
I
a
get it. I was at
disconnect.
my last shop, the shop I worked at. I was there for 15 years, so I
Yeah,
get it. I understand that part of it. I never had the exact same disagreements, but I understand being there for that long. It's got its own challenges in itself. So
yeah.
yeah,
So, we another opportunity arose, and I was like, you know what, Five Star he had moved from Ohio to Florida to retire.
interesting.
uh, and he obviously didn't want to retire, and so he drove around and figured everything out. And he opened the store, and he didn't have an
Yeah,
install bay because he likes to sell. He doesn't necessarily see the install side of things.
sure.
So it was like he was having issues with that because in Florida it's an install state. You
Right.
buy equipment, you expect to get it installed. In Ohio, I guess that because he was in a mall, that wasn't always the case. People just come by.
Oh,
So
sure.
he was fine with that.
Yeah.
Um, so, there was an opportunity to build an install bay that hadn't exist. So I didn't have to walk in and clean up after anybody, fill anybody's shoes. It was
Right.
literally like, here's the building. There's nothing inside of it.
Wow.
And we have a car coming in tomorrow. I'm like, it's literally a garage door.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like, the first day, it was like from the first day until now, it's like,
Yeah.
it's just been go, 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 go,
Yeah.
go.
That's kind of cool though, like not having to walk into an existing shop. I mean, the very first shop I worked at, not the one for 15 years, but the first shop I worked at when I was like 16, 17 years old, I walked into the bays and it had been abandoned for like 3 months, 6 months.
Oh,
They hadn't
wow.
had a car audio installer, but they did satellite dishes. And so they would take all of the leftover boxes and junk from the satellite install at the end of the day and huck them in the shop. So I
Ooh,
literally opened the doors to a mound of cardboard and styrofoam. But I was like 16 or 17 and like, ooh, look at all, look what I can do
yeah.
with this. And, I think I had it cleaned up in like a day,
Yeah,
and
of
that's
course,
because,
because
yeah, because
it's
that's because
way
you're 17
exciting.
and got nothing else to do. And yeah, you're excited. And so yeah, it would be pretty cool to be able to just kind of start from a blank slate. That's actually kind of nice. A lot of work, but
One of the
kind of
things
nice at the same time.
we'll get back to some of that stuff. I want to get caught up on a couple of technical questions already. So if anybody's watched Dean or spent time with him actually there in Florida, you will know that Dean is a tool hoarder. If there's a tool out there, he will hoard it. So
Okay.
one of the questions from Todd was, what is one of your favorite electrical, not acoustical, measurement tools and why?
Like, okay. So what am I, so an electric, okay, hold on. What is your favorite electric, not acoustical measurement tool and why?
Multimeter? Do you have like a,
I mean,
That's a
don't
hard
really,
one, right? For a tool
yeah,
hoarder.
I mean, tools are tools. So I don't have favorites. I mean, I don't even really know how to answer that. What is your
A
favorite
multimeter.
not a measurement tool one? I mean, okay, so let's just take it from this. So I feel everyone obviously has to have a digital multimeter. I have a Fluke digital multimeter. I have like 3 or 4 Fluke multimeters. I think you need a good one. I think you need a one that you can do parasitic draw testing with. So if you don't have one that'll do that, you obviously have to have that tool.
Yeah.
I'm a believer in that. If you have 1 meter, well, 2 is better. 3 is awesome. 4 is the way to go. So, I mean, as far as that goes, personally, the test leads on the meter are my favorite. I tend to go and try to find, they make needle test points.
Yeah.
So that you can just like put them into the pins on when you're trying to test something. So they look like needles. And there again, all the stuff we use, we put on the website that we have, DNF tool drawer. So like all the tools we use, we put out on that so that if someone's watching a video or they're asking us a question, I go, just go to DNF tool drawer to the meter page and it's there and you can find these. So I like the needle pins that allow us to test that. Personally, my favorite tool, period, is my handheld RTA. And it doesn't matter which one it is. So like we have, Ken Ward is like, you got to have an MTI. And it's like, all right. So, or an NTI, not MTI. That's those mobile toy guys. That's Pate. NTI. So I was like, okay. So I bought an NTI. And I was like, yeah, this one's cool because it boots up fast. But, honestly, the PAA3 is still my favorite. But we have the X, we have the NTI, we have DMRTAs for days. And each one of them does a specific thing. Like if we're tuning a car, it gets a DMRTA, it gets set up on the 2 laptops, they go, and and it's just go to town. But if we need to just measure something quick, it's like, I can't live without that. Like now, if you're talking like hand tools, we use Milwaukee. So, Milwaukee makes that little thing that does this, that cuts, it's supposed to be for cutting trim. We use that for everything. Like if you don't have one of those, man, you're not an installer. Because that's just like, it's like when you got to cut those dashes, man, you're in there with like a roto zip style thing,
or an
forget
airsoft.
that. Use this thing, and it's just like, it doesn't have to go in as deep, and you don't have to worry about wiring harnesses behind it.
That's a good tip. That's smart.
Yeah. I think I probably have more hearing loss damage from air saws going back 20 years ago when I was in
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, especially if you're cutting metal with them. Oh.
So one of the companies makes there again, because I buy tools. I found a company that made a quiet air saw, so it's just a real quiet buzz. So we bought that one, and it's like it was great, and we used that for a long time until a friend of mine was like, "You don't have one of these things?" And I was like, "No," and I was like, "I do now."
Yeah. Here's another interesting question. So talking about tools and stuff like that, that's great. So if you have a DM608 or 810, can or should you still use the source tone controls like bass, mid, and treble?
Ooh, I love this one. Naturally, when you go to set up the car, you're going to set it up with those flat, bass, treble, mid, balance, fader, speed control volume, turn all that crap to 0, turn the speed control volume off, please, for the love of God, turn that off. Tell your customer not to use it. Set up the car, do your passenger side, do your driver's side, do your normal routine. And then the one thing about the DM products that it's like, and a lot of DSPs are this way, it's not just those, but what you run into is you tune the car, and you get it all set, and it's perfect, and you're happy, and you're like, yeah. And then you're listening to it, and you're like, man, I wish I had a little bit more treble for this song. Okay, so there's 4 presets. So now I got to go back through, I got to redo the whole thing, make a preset, I got to gain all this stuff up. And I really just wanted a little bit of treble. So that's what we call the global EQ. Mm-hmm. So your radio with the bass, mid, and treble in it gives that customer that global EQ adjustment right in the fly. So if they go, you sit them in the car and they listen to it, like, oh, I love this. And then you go listen. If you want to, like, if you're listening to something where the treble's too screechy, like for your taste, turn it down. If you want a little bit more, turn it up. If you want a little bit more range, turn it up. But I always tell them, listen, if you find yourself going more than 3 on any of those bands, bring the car back, because we need to readjust it, because what you're listening to and what we set it for are different, and we need to fix it, because those should be there just for a little bit of tweak. If you get a customer that you set it all up and he's saying that that's still 6, there's a problem. Like he has the wrong type tweeters in there. It was just pulled down way too flat, or he just needs more power. But no, I tell people use them all the time. It's that nice global EQ. Some DSPs have a whole nother section as a global EQ, or you can do grouping that doesn't do loss, meaning when you pair left to right, it doesn't automatically make the right max the left or the left max the right, which is what a DM does, which again, a lot of them do that. So having that adjustment's cool. Yeah. I'm all for it.
I agree. I think that's, a customer has all those features and functions in their factory radio now. Even if they weren't forced to keep their factory system, a lot of customers would choose to just because of cosmetics.
Yeah.
And so why would you want to take anything away from that system? So, I agree 100%. That's good. Do you happen to introduce any of your customers into the world of sound quality after an install?
All the time.
Yeah.
Most of the, so what, all right.
Backing it up. That question is more for competition though, Carlo.
Well, okay. So I've sat in the parking lot recently. The sound competition in this area is starting to come back, and good friend Jeff Smith, yours and mine. I know Jeff Smith.
I should have worn the shirt.
I have the shirt to prove it. So, we'll go to a couple sound competitions. I'll hang out with him, and he knows a lot of those guys. So we'll sit in cars and we'll listen to the cars, and I hate the cars. I'm like, is this really what we're doing? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, this is not fun. Most of the customers that come in here or come into the stores, they want fun. They want to sit in their car. They don't really care about sound quality in the sense how I ask and Mecca are defining it. They would just want it to sound really good, really amazing. They want positioning sometimes. They most of them don't even know what they want until they sit in the car and they go, holy crap, this is what you were talking about? I go,
Agreed. Yeah.
So it's more the experience, but that's one of those things that talking with the customer before you start on the car and kind of explaining and getting a good feel for what they're trying to do. And, the consultation portion of it is how serious are they about this? We'll get in a car and, the guy goes, I really, if he's older than me, he goes, I really like rear fill. And I'll be like, oh, I know you do. You're used to those 6x9s in the back.
I was just going to say,
6.5s in the
rear
front.
deck, man.
Yeah. You're getting that car. There'll be some imaging, but those rear speakers, you're going to know they're there because that's what they want. And if you don't deliver that to them, they're just like, it's not what I wanted.
I've taken those guys and put them in a car that had incredible imaging and soundstage and was a really good sounding car. And they go, I don't hear anything behind me. They want that 2 6x9s on a 300 watt 2-channel type sound, and that's okay. Hey, to each their own. If that's what, if that's what does it for you, then we can deliver that. So I think that's one of the beautiful parts.
But one of the aspects of that when it comes to delivering to the customer, and this is one of the things that our videos try to show, and when we talk about making videos for your store or things that you're going to do, is a lot of these concepts are hard to explain in that little 20 minutes to 30 minutes you get with the customer. And that's where making videos about these bigger topics to share with your customers is what we kind of try to push dealers to do. It's like we get it. It's not easy to sit there and explain this, but if you have a car, if you have a car you can demo, great. We don't have a car we can demo. So, we do it other ways, and video is a great way to do that.
So speaking of a car to demo and stuff like that, what was your first car, Dean?
It was a 1980 Dodge Omni. We called it
Dodge Omni. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
and did you have a system in that one?
Yeah, it had a Sony Walkman powering a set of Peerless tweeters and a set of JSE 8-inch subwoofers and some pamper boxes in the back. It was priceless.
Don't you wish you had pictures?
No, I don't.
I wouldn't want those getting out there.
No, and then that moved on to a Renault Encore. For those of you that have ever heard of Renault in the U.S., they had an Alliance and they had an Encore. The Encore was a competitor for the Ford Escort. So that was it had a sunroof, it had aluminum wheels, it had stickers that GT on the side. It was that was the high school car that was like, dude, this is awesome. And that was the education tool. That was where you learned everything. That was where you learned to be a fabricator. That was where you learned about audio. That was where you learned about power draw and like the importance of fuse holders. And aluminum foil. It's really not made to go around a fuse. I'm just telling you that.
No, it's not.
But that was the learning car, as far as it had so many stereos in it and so much stuff.
Yep.
And it was like, you know, over the 4 years I owned that car, or 3 years I owned that car, it was just like, it went from like, this thing is going to catch on fire to like, you know, full Morel, full Orion SX system, all custom, custom door panels. So it was, you know, it was one of those things where it's like, I don't like the way that sounds. All right, let's tear it all off and we'll build a whole new system.
That's awesome.
But that was the learner. That was where everything came in, and then it fell apart on me, as all those cars did. And it was like, okay, so let's get a Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, because so back, you know, what was it, like 93, you could go buy a brand new Mitsubishi Eclipse for like 11 grand.
Right.
It was like, I'm in, sign me up. Bone stock, crank windows, got some Spall window kits. You know, there again, all the stuff I learned from the Renault went into making one system in this car. And that ended up being like a full Macintosh system, because at the time Macintosh was just getting into car audio, and they had no idea what they were doing. And we were just selling the hell out of it, because there was nothing to compete with it. You could sell $1,000 50 watt by 4 amplifier, because there was no touch screens to take that money out of that sale.
Sure. Right.
And then once that finally came around, that company was like, "You mean we can't sell $2,000 amplifiers anymore?" No.
What do you mean?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah.
So
somebody posted, I saw your wiring layout. Wow. When you do your wiring as neat as you do, running power and ground signal and other wires parallel to each other, don't you get a lot of engine noise?
I think I would have the shirt that says, "I get no noise." Everything that, so you have to know your equipment is really what it comes down to. If you notice, most of the equipment we use is all high-end equipment, in the sense that it is, you know, it's audio control, it's Rockford, it's, trying to think, Audison, you know, Pioneer. We've done some DD audio stuff. Everything we use, we try to get, you know, we go at it like, this is what we're going to use. And believe it or not, that is always a thought, like noise. So if you look at the amp racks, you'll notice that there's, if a wire, like a power wire, is going to sit next to a signal wire, the power wire is raised a ½ inch above the signal wire. So we actually build bridges. So it's a 3D, you know, when you're top down at it, you really don't see it. But when we 3D pan back, you'll notice that everything is stacked up, and so that it's not, and if like a power wire has to cross a signal wire, it's raised or one is lowered, so that they're never actually in direct contact with one another. And of course, if they do cross, they're at 90s, so that it's not going to be an issue. But signal wire, I mean, most people in modern car audio, if they're getting noise, it's usually from the product, and it's not from the installation, in the sense that, yes, it could be the installation quality products it's using, like if you use a crappy set of RCAs, or using crummy wire, or you have a bad ground. But in the sense, if you're using all good stuff or all great stuff, then the likelihood of you having noise has been reduced. One of the mottos that we have is set yourself up for success. And that is, use the best stuff you can whenever you can, because chances of failing is reduced. There's always a chance, but try to minimize it to the lowest thing.
Well, I had this conversation with someone not too long ago that we were talking about, you know, over the course of the last 10, 15, 20 years, how, you know, have we gotten that much better at what we're doing, or has the product gotten better? Because we felt like, the gentleman I was talking to, we felt like the cars, we weren't running into engine noise and noise issues nearly as often as we used to 10, 15 years ago. And what we kind of decided was, we haven't really gotten that much better. You know, we're pretty much doing things the same way we've been doing them forever. It's that the products have gotten better at rejecting noise. We were using better products as well, because 10, 15 years ago, you know, we didn't know as much back then. This gentleman and I was talking to, that is. And so, you know, as you use better cables, better RCAs, better practices, better install methods, and just better products, it's like, well, it's just not as much of an issue as it used to be. I mean, at least in our experience.
Well, that in the, now that most amplifiers, whether they use it, most high-end amplifiers are coming with some form of a DSP built into them because they're Class D. So there's going to be noise canceling built in the amplifier to fix all the issues associated with just building that type of amplifier.
Yeah.
So I feel manufacturers have finally figured out that, hey, we know these are going to be going in really bad situations. We have to build accordingly, and we can't just, we can't just, I mean, there are companies that do it. They just, here's a power supply, here's some capacitors, here's our output devices, RCA's here, power wire there. It's like a dance move,
Right.
and it's like, how many do you want? And, and those amps have noise,
Right.
and that's okay. And it doesn't matter whether you're running the RC outside the car, around the block, and into the back of the radio.
Doesn't matter.
You're still going to have noise. The other thing, too, is the car itself is actually worse than it was back then because, back in the 90s and early 2000s, we had actual metal cars that were put together in a way that was like there was a guy going, now it's caulking guns putting these cars together, and there's like half a dozen spot welds. So you're just hoping to God you picked a good spot, unless you're cool enough to meter resistance between the ground point you think is good and the battery, which, I mean, how many guys are doing that?
On a regular basis, probably not many. Yeah.
So,
there's, as far as the noise issues goes, I mean, I'm going to throw in my sense here. As far as noise issues go, I agree. The one thing to remember too, from when noise started back in the day was Class D was a lot, first generation Class D technology had a lot of EMM that radiated out. So if you experience any noise issues, all the audio control products do have, different grounding points so you can keep them isolated or add some resistance to the balanced and isolated RCA input, stuff like that. Another thing to remember too is orientation of some of the products is one thing to watch out for. If you have a customer who loses FM reception, a lot of us have been installing for 20 or 25 years. And, when European vehicles first had amplified antennas, and you throw a Class D amplifier in there, you ever lose some of that FM signal strength?
That's a question we still get today on the show.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, we get that all the time. It's like, as soon as I put my amp in, I lost my FM reception. And my answer to that is, why are you listening to the FM radio? You're the only guy. And then you go, no, what kind of amplifier do you have? Is it anywhere near the antenna? Because most of the more inexpensive Class D amplifiers, they didn't take the extra time to shield it to not affect your FM antenna. And everyone just sits there and goes, I was like, the easiest way to test is just pull the remote turn on your sub amp and see if your FM reception comes back. If it does, then it's your amplifier.
Yeah, the first time I really experienced that severely was on motorcycles. When we first started really getting into doing a lot of Harleys, and you're literally putting an amp on top of the radio, and the antenna is in the fairing, and suddenly the guy goes from having it was already crappy reception, it was already shoddy because it's a motorcycle, and it goes from that to zero reception. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think it was, first couple of Harleys we did where we really noticed that big. And for some reason at the shop I worked at, we got hit up for AM reception all the time. And my answer was kind of like yours, Dean. It's like, what are you doing listening to AM? I just put in a Bluetooth stereo for you. Tell you what, how about I put an app on your phone? I'll put the Cairo app.
iHeartRadio. Yeah,
I would. And I would set them up with the Cairo or Como app or whatever their channel was. And I go, look, now you can launch this and have the best AM you've ever heard, and again, they had no idea that was a thing. So
another question that came is bench pre-wiring amp EQ rack. Any suggestions or warnings around this way compared to wiring it all up in the car?
So that is probably one of the biggest questions that I get people call me about and ask about all the time. They're like, how do you do it backwards? And I'm like, what do you mean, how do I do it backwards? You're the one doing it backwards. So we're not getting any younger. That's obviously the case. And one of the things years ago when I did custom like everyone else, I was like the box builder, fabricator, and and I got tired of it. I got tired of huffing sawdust, and I got tired of doing that. That's why we don't do much of that anymore. We've switched to just plastics and whatever it takes to fit the business model that he has. But when we were doing all that, you know, I'd have an installer in the car working with me, and I'd be fabricating everything, and there'd be a bundle of wires that would come up, and I'd be like trying to figure out how to get all these snake through these intricate amp racks you make. And I was like, this isn't working. So I was like, you know what, forget it. We're going to mount these, we're going to build the whole system. We're going to mount the amps and all the wires will go forward. And they just looked at you like you're on crack. And you're like, no. I mean, whether I'm using 20 feet of 4 gauge in a 16-foot car from the battery to the back or from the back to the front, it doesn't matter. It'll get there.
Absolutely.
So as you know, we all get older and we're leaning over the back of the cars doing this, or we're crunched up, you know, doing this. It's hot here in Florida. I don't like doing that. So the idea to just do everything on the bench, a 17-foot RCA is a 17-foot RCA. How many cars does that not fit in? Pretty much none.
Right.
So if you're going to run a 17-foot RCA, you're going to mount the amp in the back. What does it matter whether you're running it there or you're running it this way? The easiest thing to do is put it on the bench and wire it up there where you can spend all the time. Because what they're going to see is that amp. And you don't want to sit in the trunk and put 500 zip ties in the trunk. You want to get the hell out of there. It's not comfortable. So
well, that's a good point. I mean, if you're going to have coiled up excess, if that 17-foot RCA only needed to be 14 or 15 feet long, traditionally, okay, what? You're going to coil up those RCAs back at the amplifier? Well, that's what they're going to see. Why not coil those up in the kick panel or behind the radio where they're never going to see it, and, you know, keep it clean? It makes perfect sense.
What we'll do is when we're trying to get the length of the wire is we'll just pull it off the spool and we'll pre-run it and be like, okay, so this is where it's got to go, you know, put it in place and figure it out. And it's like, okay, so this is the piece of wire we need. We'll cut it and then we'll just pull off. If we need 6, 8, 10, 12 of those, then we have them and then we can install them into the car. Really the only thing is like when you build an amp rack, you got to have a good set of flush cutters, man. It's really, you know, it's like,
got to flush cut those zip ties, man.
Those zip ties hurt, you know? And if you're planning on putting up any pictures of them, you know, one of the things that everyone, you know, oh, you have OCD, you know, it's like if all the zip tie heads don't go the right direction, you know, I can't believe you take time to do that. Not that. It's like you put up a picture and there's one zip tie that's going the wrong way.
You'll get picked up.
Oh my God. People are like, oh, I can't believe you did that. It's like, did what? Like, look at that one zip tie. And you're like seriously? Like, have you ever
for real?
ties? Like that's all this and that's so, you know, you just, it just becomes one of those things where it's just for the sake of your sanity. You're like, okay, you know, like you'll look at it and go, oh crap, cut that one. But it's funny because, you know, that also shows that customer the level of ridiculousness that you'll go to make something or make them happy, because that one zip tie bugged you enough to pull it out and put it the right way. They'll never know that, but all they see is the final product, you know, and you don't, you know, it's just weird.
So tell me a little bit, Dean, about how YouTube and your success on there has affected just your overall business there at 5-Star. I mean, have you guys seen, I'm sure you probably have you seen a dramatic incline?
Yeah. I mean, okay, dramatic. I don't know if you could say dramatic in the sense that, I mean, we've been doing the YouTube thing for like 6 years. So it's slowly,
is it steady?
It's slowly steady, increasing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's weird because there's two things that happen in the shop, just, you know, in a small shop like this, is you have your day-to-day stuff, because we have a 1-car bay. It's just 2 of us. As far as installers go, we work as a team. We work on the same car at the same time. It just allows us to move through things better. So, you know, you have the day-to-day stuff, like you got to do a radio, you got to do new speakers, you got to do radio, you know, an amp or just an amp and sub. And you have all that stuff, but, you know, these people will come from distance, or just, it's like, I just want an amp and sub. Will you please just do that for me, because I want my amp to look like that? And you're like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, no problem.
And then you have the other side of the coin where the guy's like, you know, I saw that big 911 build you did, or I saw that build in the Accord, or whatever it is, you know, whatever, insert car name here. I want to do all that. And so it's like, okay, so those are like 2 or 3 day projects. So, it's managing that schedule to get all of that in. And of course, like 2 or 3 times a week, I have to go over and spend a couple hours on the phone talking to people, putting systems together. So yeah, it has definitely increased the sale. Like, I don't own 5-Star, it's owned by Paul. I'm just an employee of this company. We have our own company that is responsible for all the YouTube and the social media and all that. That's my company, Smash Force Productions, that handles that side of things. So it's this weird, dichotomy that goes on between us or whatever, where with 2 of us work together to create this 5-Star thing. And it can be a struggle at times. There's no doubt about it. But it is. He's not complaining. Let's just say that.
Sure. Well, and I think a lot of guys don't realize how much goes into what you do, not only in the Bay, but with the videos and being on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and the amount of effort and time that goes into, having weekly shows and posting videos of installs and posting pictures and recording everything and editing and all that stuff. I don't think a lot of people realize quite how much time and effort goes into that. I've spent some time with you, so I have a little bit of an idea. I know that you don't sleep a lot.
No.
So,
Well, you get to see us at Knowledge Fest and hang out with us when, but no, so my week is pretty much broken up like everyone's week, in the sense that, we start work on Monday and we work Monday through Saturday. So we work 6 days a week, 9:30 to 6:30. Saturday we stop at 6 because we do a live show at 6 o'clock on YouTube, and then Monday we stop at 6:30 and we do a live show on Facebook. So those are 2-hour-long live shows that we host every week. We also go throughout the day. We'll do Instagram, what we call 5 Minutes with 5-Star, which is just we come on and we talk about things that came in the mail, cars we're working on, technology, anything that interests us,
That's cool.
or anything like we're working with a manufacturer on. We'll work that into that segment there. And then when you get home, that's when the second job starts. So you eat dinner like everyone else, but then by 9 o'clock, it's like you have to be sitting down and getting started on the next job. So the next job is producing the show for the next day. A lot of people are like, how many shows do you have in the can? How long does it take to produce a show? It's like, each show is shot the night before. So it's like last night I was up till 2:30 editing the show that came out today. Actually, last night was 2 shows because we do a 5-Star show, and then Thursday we released a show with my daughter's channel, which is The Boring Life of Dean and Haley. So there was 2 show edits last night, and then the night before that there was an edit. So then tonight, even though it's my birthday, I'm still gonna go home and I gotta edit. Porsche Part 2 that everyone's like freaking out because I didn't put that up today, and I was like, sorry, there's another video that I put up instead. No,
I mean, I can attest to anybody that thinks it's easy to capture all this stuff on video and then post it in any manner that looks even remotely professional. It's time consuming, and to do a couple of live shows, plus do recorded stuff that gets edited and do all that, plus do a job. Don't forget, Dean has to actually work on cars, and actually do stuff, not just shoot video and edit it and do all that stuff. This stuff, there's an actual business running here.
Oh yeah. So the nice thing is like when it comes to, as Chris said, I don't mind buying the tools, and it's the same thing with the camera equipment. If there's a camera or a piece of equipment that will make whatever we're doing for that video better, then we'll buy it. So I mean, we have, you've been here. We have like 8 or 9 different cameras, that many microphones. We have so many
lights,
tripods,
all sorts of stuff.
lights. So the idea is that everything is quickly accessible and you can grab it. Like Fernando, he likes GoPro, so everything he shoots is typically on a GoPro. So he just literally walks around with a GoPro with a 64 gig card on it. And depending on what he's doing, that'll usually last them a whole day. I've had in some of the builds, I've had to up them to 128 gig card. And then I'll typically shoot with a GoPro or my handheld, which we call the POV camera. It's just the one anytime you see my face is talking to that. And then we'll do what are called micro shoots, where a normal shoot is going to have 4 cameras. And so we'll have all this information that we have to sort through to put together a video. And the other thing too is when you're editing a video, it has to tell a story. I mean, we're doing car audio. It's pretty boring for the most part. There's not a lot of excitement in it. I mean, most of us have been doing it a really long time. And it's like, now you're going to tell somebody about car audio, and it has to be compelling and entertaining, and they want to watch it because you want them to come buy stuff from you or come have you do installation or just watch the video for whatever. So there has to be a form of entertainment there that it's weird. So it's like every video we make, it's like you have to tell the story of how we're going to take this car and take it from its ugly whatever it is now and turn it into this beautiful butterfly and and it's like,
well, I think that's one of the really interesting things about what you do and what 5-Star does and what you show on your channel and all that is that if you think about it, pretty much every other successful YouTube or Instagram or Facebook guy right now with car audio is generally focused around custom, right? It's almost always about building boxes and trim panels and fiberglass and stack fab and blah 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 blah.
Correct.
And yours isn't, and it kind of it's a testament to what you're doing because it didn't cross my mind for a long time. I don't think it crossed a lot of people's minds for a long time. They're wrapped up in how awesome this install is and how clean the wiring is, and they kind of forget that, hey, you know what? They didn't build a box.
No.
They didn't stack fab this. They didn't fiberglass this. But it's cool because to me, it shows a little bit more of the real life of car audio, not the 3-month long $30,000 build. So.
Well, it was funny that you mentioned it. So I was talking with a friend of mine, and he's a big custom guy. Like he's like one of the holy crap, that guy, yeah. And we were talking, and I was like, yeah, we do no custom. And he goes, what do you mean you do no custom? And I was like, yeah, we do no custom. He goes, dude, you're missing my point. He goes, yeah, you're not doing the fab work that we're doing, but he goes, you're 100% doing custom.
Sure,
I'm like,
that's true.
Every amp panel you make is custom fit to go in that car. They're one off. They take you guys, the detail that you guys put into those panels is ridiculous. He goes, I don't even want to put the detail you guys put into those things. He goes, those silly fuse holders that you guys mount. You know how difficult you've made my life now that you guys build those fuse holders and point those out in every car.
Yeah, 'cause now people are expecting it.
Yeah, he's like, trust me, the fat, and he goes, now you have a laser, so for God's sakes, every freaking tweeter mount you make, you're posting on Instagram. It's like, what happened to the good old days where you just like take some foam, stick it in, and CA glue it in, and call it a day.
Yeah,
now
take a piece of backstrap and bend it.
Yeah, now everyone wants to see how intricate did you make this tweeter mount. I tell Fernando, I was like, dude, I bought a $4,000 awesome tweeter mount maker. Because it's like,
so I can put our logo on every tweeter mount.
Yeah, it's like, it's like you're over there for an hour coming up with these intricate tweeter mounts, but God forbid, it's like that tweeter has to click in. It's like,
that's funny.
But so we do fab, but not fab like everyone thinks of fab.
Right, not in the traditional sense.
Yeah, because I mean, we still have 3 router stations. We still have a table saw. We have a panel saw. I have 6 routers. I have every single possible tool that you would need because I did fab. So it's like I had all that stuff. I just don't like doing it.
Hey, I've been down there to Florida with you, and it was hot and sticky, and I don't blame you for not wanting to have sawdust everywhere every day, or doing that stuff.
So we have plastic. The nice thing about cutting plastic is plastic and gravity are friends. So as soon as you cut plastic, gravity sucks it right to the floor or static electricity, whichever one it is. I don't care. So the thing is you cut one piece of MDF, man, it goes over everyone. And then we're in the bay. We got to clean off all our cameras. We got to clean off the microphones. We got to clean off the toolboxes. It's like, screw that. I don't know. No. And there's great companies out there that make amazing enclosures now.
Absolutely.
Like we have, we work with Frostbite boxes. They make amazing stuff. Obviously you got Pate over there doing MTI stuff.
Yep.
You got the guys up in Atlanta. They do really nice boxes. We have a few local guys here that will make any box we want. I just send them a blueprint, and they're like, "Yeah, man, give me a day or two. I'll bust it out for you."
Well, that's time you could be spending doing something else. Why wrap up a day or two of your time when you could be doing the rest of the install while they're banging out the box? It makes sense.
We're going to make money on it regardless. So it's like, it's not like I'm giving the box away for free. Totally. I mean, the box is still $400. Whether I made $200 profit on it or I made $150 profit on it, it's still $400 box.
Right.
So, and I didn't have to break a router bit. I didn't have to chip a saw blade. I didn't have to lose a finger, which I've almost already done. So that's a whole nother thing. Yeah. Routers and me don't get along apparently. So, you know, it's there again. Everyone has to have a business model as far as what they want their company to be. And you just modify it as you go along to fit the needs. You know, if you see a need here and you can make a profit at it and you can do it and you can do it the best of your ability, well, then go at it. If you can't, then, you know, maybe not, and maybe let somebody else do that, but just sub it out. And for us, subbing out the enclosures, yeah, it kind of works better.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So a question from for you, Dean.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see here. Do you have a favorite go-to wiring brand or type?
So we use Stinger. We're a big fan of Stinger. Stinger is literally like, if I point like this, Stinger is right there. Okay, so if I could throw a ball about 1.5 miles, it would hit the top of Amp Global. So with that, we have a really good working relationship with everybody there. That's not to say that that's the only wire I would ever use. I have had manufacturers come to us and be like, ooh, and I'm like, wow, this is really nice stuff. But the hassle that is involved with that doesn't make sense to get involved with them. Sometimes it's like you go, if a brand makes something and it's good and it'll do what you need it to, then you stick with it. Me personally, I feel they make some of the best RCAs out there, the whole board. So I don't have issues with it. And that's another determiner. Anytime I decide to get together with a manufacturer, it's like, what kind of headaches are you going to cause me? If you're going to cause me headaches, I don't want to be with you. I want to be with somebody else. Right. And they're one of the companies that just, there's no headaches there. So I like their wire. We've never had any issues. So we go with that.
Yeah. So another question from another chat here. What are your thoughts on the future direction of car stereo, more specifically integration?
I'm glad you asked that question because like I was hoping you would. I think it's great. I got to be honest with you. I am super excited about integration into, like, that's what we do. I mean, honestly, day to day, like if we do a car that doesn't have some form of a DSP and it's like not a radio replacement, even with radio replacements now, we're really pushing people into DSPs because like there again, set yourself up for success. If there's an issue with audio, a DSP 9 times out of 10 or 9.5 times out of 10 is going to fix that issue, or at least give you the ability to go in there and do something, which just not having one is not, you know, just a line output converter is not tuning a car. It's just like, here's what you have. It's less loud, go. But as far as integration goes, you know, I've had this conversation with Amp a lot because they're down the street, and obviously iData, we have a relationship with them, so we talk about this all the time, and it's like, yeah, integration is it. I mean, the fact that like Audio Control sells some of the best integration stuff on the market. They have this great set of tools that you can bring to a customer, and especially if you don't know what you're getting into. You know, like a D amplifier is like the awesomest thing ever. It's like, it's high level, it's got a DSP, at some point it's going to be AR, you know, it'll do what we need it to do to put into most any situations. But I you know, the biggest bane of our existence in 12 volt, is, that was cool, is got to be automatic noise canceling of any kind. So fake engine noise sucks. Like, you know, you can get past the nightmare scary all pass filters that keep you up at night going, oh God, you know, that's easy enough to get around. It's like, you know, just do an amp for amp, wire for wire solution and let the car's DSP or EQ run its thing.
Do its thing. Yep.
Do a little bit of equalization, a little salt and pepper, as we say, left, right, call it a day. You know, if you're not prepared to deal with that kind of a nightmare. But there is nothing out there that will fix that freaking fake noise. So, and it's funny because like one of the selling points for the DMRTA that we always talk about is, hey, guess what you can test for? Fake engine noise. And they're just looking at you like, you can test for that? Yeah, it's moving a speaker. That means it's going to move an RTA, and you can physically see this fake engine noise. You know, we've had videos of it. We actually did it once live. Like there was a Lexus we have, and we're like, fake engine noise, click, gone. Okay. You know, and people are just like, and you're like, yeah. But to me, out of all the technology moving forward, that is the one thing that I feel is going to constantly kick us in the balls, because there's nothing we can do about it. Like, you could have the best equipment in the world. If you've got to integrate into that factory stereo and it's got that and you can't turn it off, or there's not a workaround, or there's nothing for it, there's legit nothing I can do other than do something that's totally a third-party system not attached to the car. And yeah, some situations we may have to do that, and people are perfectly cool with it, but that's the one thing I hate. Other than that, like, we can deal with almost anything else you throw at us.
Yeah, because noise cancellation mics, you can find them and unplug them, or find the module that runs them and disconnect it. But when it's fake, when it's fake engine noise and it's integrated, what are you going to do about it? You know, stream straight to your DSP. That's what you're going to do about it.
So I mean, luckily we've so far, knock on wood, that, you know, we've been lucky that every situation there's been some form of a cure for. You know, it's like, if you in a Ford, if you're not comfortable using ForeScan, or the customer doesn't want you to screw this car, they can take it back to the dealer. They can pay the dealer $120 and they can shut that stuff off. I have it on good authority that, so what's going to be coming for us in some of those vehicles is, if we are going to be replacing the radio, that's going to be a feature built into the smart module, because there again, it's just technology talking to technology. If you're putting a smart module in a car, you can use technology to turn other technology off. We're doing that now when we're retaining our air conditioning controls and our tire pressure. So that's just one more thing to say, hey, do you want us to turn this off for you? Yeah, turn that off. So we know that's coming. So it's just a matter of, are we going to be able to replace the radio, or, you know, or do we want to replace the radio? So, you know, looking towards the future, I'm excited. I love, you know, because like you, I mean, I've been in it for 30 years. Chris, you've been in it for a really long time. When you look back to the gay old days in the 90s, and you're like, oh, that was so much fun, or even the 80s, because that's really when I started. And you think, oh, that was cool tech, and that was so much fun. Screw all that. I love what we have now. You know, it's like, it's fun to get into a car, and it's like, you know, it's like, hey, I got a laptop. Let's have some fun. What's a DSP? I don't know. Let's go to, you know, it's like that experimenting that you used to do, like when you just build boxes. It's like, oh, that sounded like crap. Well, let's lengthen the port. You know, it's like, all right, well, let's just throw it away and we'll build a whole new one. Well, now we can do that virtually with the DSP. And it's like, if you don't like the way it sounds, you hit delete and start over. Yeah. Like, that's
a good point. Yeah.
You know,
that's a good point. And I think a lot of people are caught up in that kind of, oh, it was better yesteryear. You know, it was better back in the day. And it's like, no, it really wasn't.
No. I mean, when I could take an amp that's this big, that's 300 watts, and like tuck it into, and then make this car go, and the customer go, oh, I go, hell yeah. You know, walk out.
On the topic of yesteryear and old school stuff, do you have a favorite piece of old school gear? Do you have a favorite piece of gear from years gone by?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
What is it?
Anything that says Orion on it, and
okay.
I like the old Orion stuff. That was the old school, not the new just moon. I like the old school with the moon and star. So in the videos, you'll see I have a Orion 225 HCCA that's attached to the wall. That's one of the first generation before they made them shiny. It has the old logo on it. A friend of mine, Jason, out at Stereo Kings in Oregon, sent it to me, I think last year for my birthday. It was his brother's. And he's like, dude, I know you're going to love this. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Oh.
What's that?
No, I'll talk to Clinton too about you know, the future and stuff like that, just for us at Audio Control.
Yeah.
You know, working with guys like Dean and Matthew being in the shop. In 2001, I sold my store because I thought 12 volt wasn't going to last very much longer, because, you know, we already had climate control stuff and data was coming. I was really fearful of data. Then 2003 hit, and wiring harnesses at the time went from, you know, $9.99 retail to $79. And I thought, who's going to buy a $79 harness when CD players are now $79? But, you know, here we are 20 years later almost. And as an industry, we continue to grow and make better, louder, cleaner systems. So audio control, I think, has a big product plan to continue that on and have products, even if we have to work with other companies to make our products flawlessly install. And like Dean said, he can get in there and do all kinds of cool stuff, as long as we allow the options for everybody to get in and play around. And you have that, like he said, that Control Alt Delete kind of, yeah, that doesn't sound good, let's start over, once it's all installed. So
yeah, and without having to crawl under seats and crawl in trunks and turn screwdrivers to make adjustments. It's pretty cool to be able to do it all from the driver's seat.
We still got to do that, but
yeah, not like we used to though.
You got to set them gains, man. Got to set them gains.
Turn them all the way up. Turn them all up, all the way.
Yeah.
There was one question, and I don't know how much stuff you actually do with LED or LED spotlights or anything like that. I know you do a lot of Jeeps and F-150s if you do lighting, but do you ever have issues with interference with the installs of LEDs?
So we don't do LEDs because of that whole, we want to set ourselves up for success. Every time I have a customer come in that has had LEDs already installed in their car, it's always an issue. Meaning there's always like one LED that doesn't work. There's some kind of just, like I had a guy reach out to me the other day. He's like, man, my backup camera is intermittent. It's not always working. And I'm like, okay, let's kind of troubleshoot this, as we're texting. And come to find out, the problem was he had LED taillights, and there was just a communication error there between the car and the LED lights that was not always triggering the reverse lights. And it was like, yeah, I don't need those headaches. I don't need those headaches at all. I know a lot of guys are cool with that and they'll take the money and run, but I don't know. I don't have the time or the patience for that.
Yeah, my 2 cents and input on the LED topic. I did a lot of LED stuff at my last shop, and I like lighting as a category. I think it's fun, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff to do with it. But my experience with LED stuff in general has been you either buy the absolute top of the line, some of the most expensive stuff, or the rest of it's garbage. And it causes you problems. But the problem is that most people don't want to be at this level once they see the tag. I mean, they think they do, but when you tell them, the LED headlights they want are $300 or $400, and they saw some for $50, there's a reason why I'm telling you the $300 or $400 ones are the way to go, because they won't have problems, and right. I think the problem with that, generally speaking, is that most people don't go to there. They go somewhere in the middle, and those ones usually end up having issues. So that's been my experience anyway.
Agreed. Yeah. Plan for success.
Yeah. So has this whole coronavirus thing been a big impact down there for you in Florida, Dean?
I mean, we closed for a week. We got closed. We were fine up until a point. Then they came in and they closed us for a week, which actually worked out okay because we had some contract filming work we had to do. So we were still able to come in because our install bay is detached from our actual show floor.
Right.
So we were able to come in and take care of that side of things, which was really nice. Got us caught up on a lot of work we were trying to get done.
Yeah,
and then the second week we were just having customers drop off cars that already had appointments. So there was no interaction with the customers. It was like just cars in parking lot, grab keys, work on car, put keys in car, customer got car. And then after that second week was when Florida decided to start opening again. And honestly, like we put all these safety things in place, as far as like the 6-foot rule and social distancing and closing these portions of our showroom. And, Florida people, man, what are you going to do? It's crazy. I mean, people, we're busy. The problem is we're super busy right now. Some of the manufacturers don't have equipment. I don't know how your business has been. Well, I do know how your business has been, but, it's just this weird situation that we've all had and we're just trying to get through it. But you're also like right now, everyone that I talk to is like, you're either super busy or you're still stuck at home. And the guys that are super busy are like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like, because you're like, okay, do I buy and gear up or is this going to fizzle off in a month? It's like, so it's kind of still touch and go. I mean, we have work. We have plenty of work to do. We have equipment to handle that. It's just a matter of, So, I mean, we're doing okay as long as,
That's
as
good.
long as the world just doesn't keep going left. And I mean that in a direction, not in a political standpoint. I don't do that, but
that's wise. That's wise to stay away from that topic, right?
Yeah. No politics. I'm just saying, as long as it keeps doing this weird thing where it's like spinning backwards and, who knows?
Good.
I mean, anymore, it just seems like every day you're like, you see these stories where it's like these guys are getting, and then their store burns to the ground, and you're like, are you kidding me? So knock on wood, some guys in this industry have had that happen, and it's a tragedy for sure. But a lot of guys, what I'm hearing is they're like, they just killing it, and it's like, that's good, because we got to make up for those months.
Right. Exactly. So somebody did ask on the lighter side, since it's Dean's birthday, what's your favorite 80s song, Dean?
I'm a big Phil Collins fan and Van Halen, so it would have to be probably something from Phil Collins or Van Halen.
There you go.
Probably more Phil Collins, because I don't think I'd really found Van Halen back then yet. Everyone was hot for Teacher, but like Susudio was like a pretty dope song back then. It's like, oh, dude, shh. My jam. Susudio was on the radio. Everyone be quiet.
I introduced my 5-year-old to In the Air Tonight yesterday, actually, on the way home. So it was pretty funny. Little Phil Collins for him.
Yeah. So that's one of those songs that's kind of fell into that like Hotel California genre.
Oh, totally.
Where it's like, if you're going to play that song for me one more time, we can't be friends.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was funny to show it to my 5-year-old, though.
Yeah. Did you go? So like, listen, this is what this song is about. I don't want to know that. I don't want to know.
There was, just talking about Hell Freezes Over. There was, in our old store, we would buy all these bass CDs, and all kinds of stuff. But there was 2 CDs that were never, ever stolen out of the display room. Hell Freezes Over and Ace of Base.
Ooh, I like
Ace of Base. Yeah,
so if you play anything off of Hell Freezes Over, or if I hear I saw the sign,
oh my God,
blow my head off.
So my owner was a big Steely Dan fan, so we had all of Donald Fagen's hits that were playing. Someone asked what running shoes I use. I use a brand called Newton, and I use the Distance, I think is what they're called. They're the minimalist distance shoes. And if real runners talk real quick, if you're going to run and you're going to do it more than 3 times a week, you have to get multiple pairs of shoes. So I try to run 5 to 6 days a week. I have 3 pairs of identical shoes, and you wear them once, and then you let them sit for 2 days before you wear the next pair. So that's a little, and especially if you're just getting into running and you're planning on running, like, at least have 2 pairs of shoes and never wear them consecutively, because what happens is you squish the foam, and all the plastics and all that get hammered into the ground, and they need time to rebound. And it doesn't look like it, but it's microscopic rebounding. It will just tear your legs to pieces if you don't do that. Like everything else, I learned the hard way.
It makes sense, Makes sense when you're at one of those conventions or one of these big shows.
Well, we talked about that.
Yeah, you and I talked about that. You go back to the hotel room and just put on a different pair of shoes. Doesn't matter what they are.
Nope.
Your feet instantly just feel 100 times better. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, Chris doesn't have that problem because he always travels like 6 pairs of shoes. He always comes. I'm like, dude, what the hell?
I always bring a bunch of shoes too.
Stupid.
Well,
I don't.
Dean, that's we're coming up on about an hour here. So unless there's any other big questions or anything else you want to talk about, I'm sure you have installs to get back to, etc.
I'm good. Whenever, I'm good. Whatever. That's it.
Any other questions you saw come up, Chris, or anything else from you?
Nope. All good. Just wanted to again thank everybody for joining us again.
Can I thank everyone for the birthday wishes? Thank you all.
Yeah. I was good. Yep, happy birthday. I think, I was hoping that we were going to be able to make it an annual thing where I happened to land in Florida during Dean's birthday, but passed this year. So I'm not secretly there at 5-star, just in a different room or anything, but we'll make up for it next year. Hopefully I'll be back in a bunch of silver tubes flying through the air, because I certainly miss it.
Right.
I think thank you guys all for being here. It's been a pleasure. A lot of stuff going on at Audio Control. All the reps that are on the call. We have some updates that we'll be getting out to you about new product releases, what that's going to look like, about our plans on getting caught up. I hope everybody on here is not just surviving but flourishing now. A lot of us in the 12-volt industry are reaping the benefits of people getting back to it and seeing a lot of success out there. And with success, and growth, we have to be mindful of how to take care of you guys the best. We're working our tails off to do that. So we appreciate patience. And on top of that, we will get back on the new product cycle. You'll start seeing some stuff here, hopefully in another 4 weeks of new products. And keep an eye on all of Dean's social media channels. If you're a retailer, an installer, take some lessons from Dean and Fernando and 5-Star, because they are the real deal. They're there every single day. They're doing installs that make our customers repeat customers, that make our industry what it is today. He's been installing 20 years ago, and I have that conversation with him regularly, like, hey, do you miss doing deck and fours? Because it wasn't that long ago. That was a good portion of 5-Star's business. Now he has customers that will drive from, regularly 6 to 10 hours away, if not thousands of miles away, just for a 5-Star install. So, happy birthday, Dean. Thanks for being here with us. Alex is showing up here, so we can have a last minute word from the ringleader at Audio Control.
I just want to say happy birthday, Dean. That was really cool. I watch your videos every morning actually on the way to work. I shouldn't say that 'cause I'm driving, but I do watch them. And I've learned a ton. I think you're a credit to our industry. We love working with you in so many ways, and look forward to building upon that. But happy birthday. Have a fun time tonight with Susan and Haley.
Thank you. Will do. See you guys soon.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for joining us.